Okay, here we're going to look at the application of some kind of illegal drug market. And we can make this drug market could be, for example, heroin or the substitutes, the synthetic substitutes for heroin. Okay, so let's make it that. And we're going to use this as an application of our situation of how inelastic or elastic demand is. Okay, so illegal drug market. So one thing to notice, what do you think demand's going to look like? So let me draw supply. I don't really know what supply looks like. I've heard it said that it's probably pretty elastic. I'm just going to draw a supply kind of like this, okay? Because I'm not really focused on supply here, so I'll just draw it like this. What do you think demand's going to look like? So think for a second, but we would expect it to be very inelastic. The reason we expect inelastic demand is because it's addictive. So these kind of addictive things usually have very inelastic demand. So let's suppose our demand curve is going to look like this. Okay, demand curve looks like this, very inelastic. Yeah, make it a little less inelastic, but very, very inelastic anyway. So this is our demand curve. So now we put some, we can implement some strategies that have been used in the past, and we can kind of show what's the issue with those strategies. Okay, so let's first start by so this is going to be application of several things we've done in this section. So let's just start by saying, okay, what's the revenue of the drug companies? So this is the revenue of the drug cartels, right? So this is their revenue before. And now we're going to bring in the war on drugs. So we're going to fight drugs. We're going to go, we're going to try to arrest drug traffickers, confiscate drugs. We're going to try to burn poppy fields in other countries, whatever we can do. Okay, so and then what we do all these things, and let's suppose it works, and we can reduce the supply quite a lot. Okay, so we reduce our supply quite a lot. It'll still work even if I had drawn supply more. Okay, we reduce our supply quite a lot. So we have a war on drugs, right? This causes our supply to go down. Now what happened? So that's the thing. Well, what happened? Did this make things better or make things worse? So let's take a look. So now this is the revenue for the remaining drug traffickers. So for the drug traffickers who went to jail, this is definitely not a good thing for them, right? But for the drug traffickers who survived, guess what happened? They got more revenue. So they lost this revenue because there's going to be some cutback in consumption, but the cutback in consumption will be very small. But they gained this revenue. They gained this part. They gained B, right? So B is extra. They didn't have B before. So they lost A and they gained. So they got more revenue. So the ones, and if this is very inelastic, they'll get a lot more revenue. And the bigger the effect on supply, the bigger the boost in revenue will be. So actually, this can be seen. So when major drug operations happen, it can be seen on the street that the street level price of the drug will spike, but this doesn't affect consumption much. It only affects consumption if there's a substitute, but usually this substitute is also very addictive and also very damaging. And in some cases, for example, in the case of fentanyl, it's actually more harmful than the original drugs. Okay, so one of the evidence that this simple application of supply and demand could tell us is that the war on drugs is not going to work. Okay, this could in fact, economists have been saying this for a very long time. It can't work. It doesn't make sense, and the reason it can't work is because when you cut supply of something very inelastic, revenue goes up. So the remaining drug cartels, unless you can make it somehow go to zero, but as long as the remaining ones will have more incentive to do this business because they can make even more money than they were making before. Okay, so the problem really has to come from the other side, is somehow finding ways to cut demand, right? If we can't cut demand for these things, if demand is there for the drugs, the revenue will get, the potential profits get so big that no matter how many groups you arrest or put in jail, somebody else will always pop up ready to do this business because it becomes so lucrative. And so this is a simple application of this situation. So if we were able to instead to cut demand, then we would see that that would hurt. I'm not going to go draw it in this case, but if you went back to the original problem and cut demand, you would see that the revenue would indeed fall for the company.